everyone. Hello again, dear teachers. First of all, I would like to say congratulations to everybody. We have survived the first quarter and we have survived the implementation of our first quarter e-learning program. And for that, we could actually give a big round of applause for ourselves because I think personally that we did a good job for our first quarter implementation. And from here on, I think we could expect that good things will come, better things will come as we try to evaluate, we try to assess our offerings, the system, and the process. And I think that there will be a lot of good adjustments from our part. And we hope to do this to serve our students better. And so, our first quarter examinations are done, and we are also finishing up our performance task. And of course, the question is, after this, what's next? So, in this video, I'm going to talk about how we could manage the results of our first quarter assessment and also of our performance task, and in general the whole or the general performance of our students. And with that, I'm going to introduce to you analytics tool in Canvas that will help us analyze the performance of our students, the performance of the class, and we could also use this as a feedback tool to our students, and also we could use this to decide on whatever course materials that we're going to design for the next quarter. Okay, so in this video we are going to discuss three analytics tool, and I hope that you would bear with me because this might be a long video. So if you want, you could try to watch per segment so that you won't get overloaded by the information. Okay, so the very first thing that I would like to discuss is the individual analytics tool that we could use for our specific assessment. So next week, most of us would be giving feedback based on the performance of our students and the class on the first quarter exam. And so, to help you give proper feedback, I would like to introduce to you the first analytics tool. So, all you have to do is just go to your quizzes. Okay, and from here, I would like you to go to your first quarter exam. So you locate that. So in my case, I have here my QSA number 1. I'm going to look at it. Okay, so of course you're going to have this preview again of the test, but I'd like you to focus on the quiz statistics. You are all familiar already with the moderate this quiz tool or function, but let us now focus on quiz statistics because this one will give us a good overview and perspective of the performance of the class. So I go ahead and click that, and this is now what you will see, the quiz summary. And you could also try to filter per section. Later on, I will discuss with you student analysis, and very important is item analysis that we used to do before. But of course, because of the rudiments of quick item analysis, we tried to forego this one. But here in Canvas, we can go back again to this function and look at the reliability of our exam on how it measured what it intended to measure. So, you can see here that the mean score or average score of my exam is 56%. And you can see on the graph, we have here what we call a normal curve. Of course, The students, the middle performance is the one that has the highest number of students. And you have here the, of course, those who got low and those who got very high. The highest score is here, the range. You can see the highest score is 93%, lowest is 13%, the standard deviation, and of course the average time taken by the classes that I'm handling. So all sections taken together, average time taken is 33 minutes and 41 seconds. Now, what happens if I filter this out per section? I have two sections here. So like for example, I filter 7B. So I'm clicking 7B now. All right. So the quiz summary for 7B is as follows. So you will notice now that the average score has changed. The highest score, the lowest score, standard deviation, and the average time is 35 minutes. And you can see now that the lump of the score is going to the right, or the concentration of the scores is going to the right, because out of the two sections, it's 7B who are performing better as compared to the other section. You will see as well below the different questions. So this is the question breakdown. And what you will see here are the number of respondents who have chosen your choices. Okay? Since this is a multiple choice type of assessment. Now, you will see here on the right the number or percentage of those who answered correctly. And you will also see here what we call a discrimination index. Now, what is a discrimination index? Discrimination index, as the name suggests, would help you to actually assess if how your question was able to discriminate those students who are performing better and those who are not. So, there are two colors here that you will see. The green positive color and the red positive color. Now, to help you interpret, if the color is green, it means to say that this question was able to discriminate properly or well those students who are performing better and those who are not, as compared to the red. Now, the meaning of this is, if it's green, it means to say that those students who are really performing well, has most of them has chosen the correct answer. Okay? But if it's red, it means to say that those students who are really performing well had a hard time identifying the correct answer. Or another factor could be that even most students who are not performing well in this test was able to choose or discriminate the correct answer. So those two factors are coming into play. So looking at this test, all right, I'm glad to see that most are actually green as compared to red. Okay? But of course, we have to really accept the fact that there are some questions that are fairly easy as compared to the others. All right? So, these are the question breakdown. You could again filter it to another section. If you have 4 sections, you could look at the individual rating of each section that you have. Next is the student analysis. If I click student analysis, there will be actually a CSV file that you will be downloading, and it will actually look like this. So let's see. Okay, something like this. So it will look like this, and it's actually excuse me, I report of the different answers per student. So it's the exam itself, and it's giving us a view on what were the answers of the individual students on each question that we've had in the exam. All right. So that is for student report. Okay. So if you want to see your students' responses, this is like the individual test paper that we have or we give out again. So aside from the speed grader, no, we have, we can also look at this. This is our, like, our hard evidence as to what were the answers of our students during the exam. Okay? Next is the item analysis, which I would like to dwell more on. So again, if you click item analysis, it will generate a CSV file that will look like this. Okay? So, I will try my best to break down to you what are the different components of the item analysis. Of course, the first thing here is the question. You have your questions here. All of your questions are, of course, listed. All the items in your exam. And you will see here the answered student count. So how many students were able to answer the exams? And in my case, it's 88. I actually have 89 students, but one of them still will take the special exam. Here, based from the result, Canvas already identified or categorized your students as top student count, middle student count, and bottom student count. This was actually the basis of the discrimination index that you've seen per question. So, this is now like consistent for all items. Canvas already identified your top student, the middle student, and the bottom student. Next is, we have here the number of questions in your test, so the quiz question count. You can see here the correct student count, how many students got correct in that question, and how many students got wrong. So in question 1, 45 out of the 88 got the correct answer, and 44 got it wrong. Next is, we have here the ratio of the student. Of course, 45 divided by 88, so that's the ratio. 43 divided by 88, so the ratio of correct students and ratio of wrong students. We also have here the number of students who belong to the top students and those who were correct or who are correct in your first question. So remember, Canvas has identified, in my case, 29 top students, and out of them, 19 were able to get the correct answer for number 1. Same is true with correct middle student count and correct bottom student count. And of course, what happens next is, okay, don't get your nose bleeding of these statistics. You can see the variance, standard deviation, but I would like to focus on difficulty index because this is, of course, telling us how well our item has performed. Okay, so difficulty index is actually just a ratio or a proportion of those who got the correct answer from the number of students or takers. So it would mean to say two things. If the value is very low, by the way, the range of value is between 0 to 1. If the range of value, or if the value is very low, it means to say that your item is very, very difficult. But if the value is very, very high, it means to say that the item is very, very easy. So you would like to play along the middle values. So like in my question number 1, it's 0.51, so it could be neither difficult nor easy. Okay? And there are items here who are quite low as well, which means to say this item might be very hard for some students. There are also items here who are scoring like 0.0880, I mean 0.80, which means to say that this item is easier compared to the rest. Okay, so this is how you will look at now your items as to how they did for, or how they perform based on their difficulty. You also have your alpha value here, which measures, of course, the internal consistency or reliability of your items. You would like to score here around 0.7 and above to have that sense of internal reliability, which means to say your item has measured what it intended to measure. All right. Next is the point by serial of correct and distractors. Point by serial, of course, is a statistical tool which measures correlation between two variables. I will not be dealing with that more. But then, if the value is positive for your point by serial, just like any correlation is, it means to say that um, more students, as the number of students would increase in choosing this item, the item becomes positive. Okay, so it shows here that since the values are positive, more students got correct. As the item becomes negative, meaning to say the the relationship might be what we call inverse. So more students are choosing the correct one while less students are choosing this item. So for your distractors, you would actually like to see a negative value. Because if it's a positive value, just like this one, that distractor might be really a good distractor, which means to say it did its job in distracting the students because more students are choosing this distractor. All right. So that's actually some of the things that you could do in order to analyze the generated file of our item analysis. Okay, so that would be a very good feedback when we report this to our students. Okay, or even when we reflect on our QSA for future use. Now, the good thing about this CSV file is you could actually convert this into what we call either Sheets, Google Sheets, or you could convert this into Microsoft Excel. So you just have to go to File, and then you just have to click Export. So you could export that as Excel, okay, or numbers. You could also do that if you're using, of course, Mac OS. And you could also add collaborators here. So for us teachers, we could add our department chairs so that they could also see the report of our first quarter exam. So with that, I hope you could explore this analytics and also do some reflections. Next is, I will have to go back home, new analytics. So in your homepage, you can actually see this one. At your homepage, you can see new analytics. New analytics will tell us the overall performance of our class, of our students. We could even do some comparisons here. So, upon clicking new analytics, you will see the average course grade of your class. Mine is 67.12. But you might say, sir, that's very, very low. What happened? Okay, let me explain. By the way, this is as of October 23. So which means to say that every time you click new analytics, it's being updated almost in real time, which is really, really great. So 67.12. Why is that? Because if you look at here in the graph below, you can see here the list of assignments and quizzes that we gave for the first quarter. And also, these are the published and unpublished ones. So remember, before when we designed our modules, we were very, very excited on the first 2 weeks of classes that we designed a lot of activities, a lot of assessments, and later on, of course, we realized that it's going to really take a toll or give our students a lot of cognitive load or burden, and we tried some adjustments. And so you will see here that there are some that are has no or have no recorded data at all. So if you will look at here, there are some assignments that we decided not to give anymore. There are some formative assessments that we decided not to assign anymore because of course we were considering the amount of workload of the students. But of course, since it has been made in the module, it will be counted in the grade book. And that is counted against the total score. That is why, or that would explain that the average course grade of my student is 67.12. But that is not really indicative of how the students perform, because I could just look at here the points wherein they were able to submit. So if you will take a look at here, this is a pre-assessment quiz, and this is the overall performance of the group. So it's less than 50%, which is understandable. This is the second assessment here that we have, which is the task of the week, and most of them got very high score. So you can see here the points, and you can actually look at it relative to the percentage. All right, and of course the last here you can see the performance task of the quarter, and this is the overall performance of the group. It's around 75%. All right, you could also see here the QSA, which is the first quarter exam, and this is the overall performance of the group. Now, you could also filter here in course grade whether you would want to look at only, let's say for example, all assignments are formative assessments. I will uncheck that, and I'm now left with just discussions and quizzes. Okay? Now, if I uncheck discussion, I'm left with everything is only quizzes. Okay? So this is now the performance of my students in all the quizzes that I have. But of course, not all of these are summative. Some are still formative in nature. Right? But for some of you who had your quizzes as all summative, well, you could actually make a good comparison here about the performance of the group. But this is still the performance of all your classes. What if you want to see an individual class? So you go here to filters. There. So click one section, and you will see that there's another color here, which means to say the performance of this section as compared to the performance of the whole classes that you're handling is higher. So 7B is actually performing better with or compared to the performance of all the groups that I'm handling. Now, if I throw in 7E, I can see here as well their performance. So 7B here is, of course, or 7E is the pink one. So you will notice that they're below average as compared to the average of the whole group. All right. Now, another thing is you can even throw in an individual student. Okay, so just have to maybe okay, because there are only 3 items that you could do for comparison. So you could actually, so just an example here, there. So this student, how he or she is performing as compared to the average of the whole group. So you can see the performance of that student here based on the graph. Okay? And it's not only the graph that you can make use. You could also try clicking this one for chart options. This is for display shapes, but what if you want a data table? So click data table, and this is what you will get. So everything here, all of your course activity are listed here, and you can see also the due dates. Okay, and you can see the average or the mean performance of your sections. As what you can see here, there are actually assessments that we did not bother assigning to our students anymore, because as I've mentioned, we made some adjustments as to the amount of assessments that we're giving. So that's why you will see that there are no records for that. All right, there you go. Now, that is only for course grade. Another thing that we can do is we could look at weekly online activity. And this one is a really great report for us to look at the amount of our students' activity based on page view and participation. Now let me explain. What does page view mean? Page view is of course the amount of viewing time, or the number of times the students spent viewing a certain a page, a discussion, or a certain material in your module. Next, what about participation? It's of course the amount of time spent by the student doing something based on the requirement that you have given in your material. Okay? So it could either be only a view or it could be a participation. Now let's go ahead and click. There are, of course, these are segmented into weeks because it means weekly online activity. So you have here from the very beginning when we started our online classes, you have August 10 to August 16 until August 19 to August 25. So you can see here the page views and the participation. You will understand that on the first week, there are no participations yet, of course. So if I click, for example, page view, what is 0.244? That is actually the ratio of the number of page view to the total number of students that you have. So total page view is 22 and I have 90 students. So 22 divided by 90, that's the ratio. Okay, same is true with participation. So you will now try to you can actually observe the spike of the number of page views and participation as we go along the online classes. So on the second week from 0.244, this is now 54.022, which actually translates to 4,862 page views out of the 90 students. And you can see here why. So there are some students who viewed a certain page 17 times, okay, or total views on certain material 17 times. This one has 30. Okay, well the rest, okay, this one has 80. Others have 114, 131. Okay? So that's the amount of page views that they have for this week. And total participation is 71. So 71 divided by 90 gives us 0.789. And this amount of participation will increase as we go along as well. So take a look at this. Participation becomes 10.589, 4.3. Okay. So really, this third week or second week of classes is where we were really very excited of online classes, because as what I can observe, this is where really third week of classes, this is where we got really excited, and this is where most of our deadlines, most of our coursework materials and requirements really spiked up. Okay, and based on this week, we tried to make some adjustments, and as you can see, the number of participation got lower. All right, and it has averaged on certain amounts for certain weeks. So 4, 5, 1, 3, okay, 0.2, so something like that. All right, so you could also do this and try to see and reflect how well your online activity assigned to the students has transitioned from the very beginning up until to the very end of the quarter. All right. Next, we have here students. If you click your students, of course, you will see here the data per student. And I will not dwell into this because I think you could identify naman how you're going to use this one. I don't want to expose my students into this video. And next is reports. So here, we could actually see a new tool in Canvas Analytics, which is reports. And I would like us to focus on this one, course activity, which I just recently realized that we can use this one to actually look at the validity maybe of our exam. Take a look at this. If I click run report, I could filter the student activity in the course by date. I could use date. And for example, I would look at the date of my exam. That's Friday, October 9. And I can actually filter as well per section. So you just have to add a filter. You could add section name here. So section name, let's say 7B. And I will run the report. Now, okay, so it's here now. And I would like us to look at this result. Okay, it's also a CSV file. Now, look at this result. These are the students of 7B, and this were their activities during October 9, which is supposedly my exam day. Alright? Now, as what you can see here, these are my students. These were the content types that they viewed during that date. So, content name, this is in the module. How many times they viewed that? Of course, there's no participation. But, when I check this one, all of the dates actually, there's no October 9 here. And when I filter, I could actually filter here, sort into descending. Because if I sort this into descending, the latest date would come in first. So, as I can say, I have here October 8 in the list. So, if I sort descending, I'm hoping that I could see an October 9. So, if I click that, I can see none. Which means to say, my students did not view anything at all on their module during the exam, aside from the exam itself. So here I can see what were the things they viewed on a particular date, and what it's showing me now here is just October 8. There's no October 9 on their course activity date, which gives me maybe a good amount of reflection that indeed they were focused on the exam page alone during October 9. Okay, so this is one thing that we could also look at here in this analytics view. So that's it for the new or course analytics. Last is, I would like you to go to settings, because this is now the general picture of your course. Go to course statistics, and you will see here the running total of all the things that you've made in your module. So you can see how many discussions you've had, how many posts there were, how many assignments did you assign, how many course groups so far do you have, how many rubrics, how many active students, or are there students who still are unaccepted in your course, how many quizzes. But let me explain, I did not give 32 quizzes for the first quarter. It's actually the amount of counting that Canvas did for all quizzes that you've made, whether published or unpublished. And also, it counts the number of times you assign it to. So, for example, if I did assign it separately to my section, so assign to 7B, that's one count. Assign to 7E, that's one count. Assign to specific students because they missed the test, that's another count. Okay? So, it doesn't mean that I gave 32 quizzes. How many quiz questions did I made for the first quarter? I did 156 test questions, and there were 1,109 submissions. You could even filter it in terms of assignments. So, in terms of your assignment, how many times did you use file uploads for submission? And how many submitted file uploads? How many times did you use text entry for them to submit? And how many students did that? Website URL, something like that. Okay? You could also see your total students here. And very important for you to get updated of your file storage. Your allotted storage is 500 MB. How many or how much is your uploaded file? How many of that? How many media files do you have? And you could actually compute from here what's left of your storage. Okay? So, that's it. I have given you 3 types of analytics here in Canvas, which you can use, especially as we give our feedbacking for next week. And hopefully, we will not only use this as a feedback to end the quarter, but we could use this from time to time to check and to reflect our coursework materials. So with that, I thank you very much for bearing with me into this video. Once again, I would like to say congratulations to all of you, dear teachers. This is Sir Mike. Thank you and goodbye.